So yeah, as you said, I'm in the Mournes. I'm actually at the workshop in the Mournes, just on the north side of Carlingford Lough, on the south side of the Mournes. And it was my grandmother started the workshop. She built the building back in the early 50s when she moved here from just after the war. And we're still here. We still use a lot of the same looms, and not so much the same people, but there's a couple. My mom's here still, so there's a couple of people here, but we've been training up a new generation of apprentice weavers. I've prepared I'm going to screen share if the tech allows me. Of just some imagery to help illustrate what I'm talking about. So hopefully this will work. Please let me know if you're not seeing anything. Okay, so as I said, we're just in the Mournes, which is a beautiful part of the world. Right at the foot of the mountain is where the workshop is. You can walk out the back and just straight up into the mountains, which is a lovely place to be. So when my grandmother moved over here, it was the late 40s. She found this plot of land and decided this was where she wanted to set up a workshop. She had previously had career in the UK and in Spain, and had lived and worked in Asia. So she was well traveled, and was, you know, she was a respected designer before she moved to the Mournes. But she moved to the workshop. Well, she set up the workshop, but originally she felt like it was going to be like a design studio, and she was going to get her textiles, her designs manufactured elsewhere. However, slowly that changed, and she sort of started importing looms and training up her own group of weavers, really, sort of local weavers. So I've just some of her old designs here. These are designs that she worked on with Sybil Connolly. She designed for Sybil Connolly, and then I think this is 1956. The one on the right is her Shaggy Dog, famous Shaggy Dog jacket. It's beautiful. And on the left, we've got a mended tweed. So she tended to design couture tweeds for fashion, and also interior furnishing fabrics and rugs. So this is a room display that she worked on with Robin Day, who selected her rugs to be part of his room display at the Milan Triennale in 1951. This was sort of I always look at this image and this rug, and this was like the catalyst for the workshop, because I think from that rug, she then continued to work with Robin Day for almost, well, over a decade, with Hilly, and producing furnishing fabrics for a lot of his furniture while he was designing for Hilly. This is an image of then at the new terminal, London Airport, Heathrow Airport. She at this workshop where I'm sitting, they wove over 1,500 meters, hand wove over 1,500 meters for the furniture at the airport. So it's quite a monumental task. If anyone knows hand weaving, it's a lot of hours, a lot of sweat. But you know, this was the start of the workshop. This is what got the workshop going. So I always feel like it's an important moment in its history. As I said, she imported many looms, some from Norway, some from the UK, and she built a small team of weavers, who, you know, capable of producing quite a workload, but they were, you know, basically production hand weaving. So they were hand weaving as a mechanized mill might machine weave fabrics. A lot of these, I mean, for me, when I heard the title for this forum, the continuity, I mean, it's sort of rang a lot of truths with what we're doing. I mean, there was a quote I found in an old article of hers, which said, out of the past flows the future. And this is sort of something that we come back to again and again, whether it's with the designs or whether it's with the production techniques we use or the skills that are used to make many of our fabrics and many of our products. So we use, I mean, as I said, a lot of the machines are still in production. This is in the machine room. This is Gerd. As well as the machines, we also have some familiar faces from the old workshop came back. So this is Gerd. He turned up actually when I got back and got the workshop up and running again in 2012, he turned up on the doorstep and said, "Oh, you know, he's actually a neighbor of ours, just lives down the road, and he used to be my grandmother's, an apprentice of hers when he was 18, the same time as my mom was an apprentice." So it was, you know, it's wonderful to get some of the old skills back into the workshop. And, you know, he came and here he is, he's making cheeses. These are where you break down the yarn package, and they're called cheeses, but he was producing these for our warping. So he wasn't able to weave, sadly, from an injury, but he could still be involved in the workshop and help pass on some of these skills to our newer apprentices. So as I say, this is, I'm just going to take you through some of the production techniques we use. So we start off by making a warp for the loom. So on this warping mill was imported in the 50s as well from Norway. It came down the lock, flat packed, and we use sectional warping for the warps that go on the back of the looms, just as much as you do in a more industrial mill. Everything is all done by hand in the workshop here. It's a very, very, very slow process, but you know, eventually, once the looms are set up, we can weave the various products. We have different looms that this was actually taken a number of years ago. Different looms for weaving different products. Some looms are more suitable for rugs. Some looms are more suitable for furnishing fabrics. A lot of these were originally here when we started it up again. And they've been here since the start of the workshop in the 50s. Here we have Matthew, one of our apprentices. This was also taken a number of years ago. He weaving furnishing fabric. So he's weaving a Mourne check on the loom that it was originally woven on. So on the loom, it was lovely to connect the past with the present. So we're going back to the archives, bringing them back into production, and weaving them on the same machines that they were once woven on. So there's sort of a romance to it as well. But you know, it's also, we had the authentic fabric. We had the Mourne check as it was supposed to be. You know, we were trying to keep as true to the design as we could. We had to find a lot of the fibers we couldn't, you know, the yarns we couldn't find. The suppliers had, you know, they'd gone. So we had to source a lot of these again. You know, took us to Donegal. I mean, you're going to hear from Chris a bit later on, but Donegal Yarns was instrumental for us, you know, in manufacturing custom spinning some yarns for many of our tweeds, which we couldn't find anymore. They're really highly textured yarns. I mean, they're beautiful yarn. So this again are just some images of the Mourne check on the loom. Again, on you know, and these looms, you've got dents where the old weavers have been weaving on them. So everything, there's history. There's just so much history here. It's fantastic. Everything sort of began through the archives. So we would go back to the archives. We'd get the designs. We'd then try to recreate those designs as best we could as they used to be woven. And then, you know, from there, you know, things have adapted, things have progressed. We find new suppliers, new materials. We try and, you know, it's, you know, to today's world, today's market, try and, you know, do as best we can, really. Here are some images of the fabrics on the original chair. So these chairs have been reproduced. I think 2021 makes these in London. So they're relaunched the chairs, and it's just, we relaunched the same fabric to go on the chairs. So it was just lovely to make that connection with Robin Day, the Robin Day Foundation, and keep that continuity of product, keep true to their product as well. The chair was designed to have that fabric, and so it's great to be able to make it for them. Of great value to me personally is, it's not just bringing the workshop and getting the looms weaving again. It's actually meeting some of the people who I grew up hearing about a lot as a child. So this is John the Weaver, John Mcintoshney. He was the true master weaver. He'd been weaving since he was 15. A huge friend of our family. I'd heard about him as a child, as I say. He wove for my grandmother. He commission wove, so he was a piece weaver. So he would weave from a shed, It was amazing how much he can produce from his shed. And you'd bring a warp to him, he would put it in the back of his loom, he would weave it out, and then you'd go and pick up the woven fabric. It was just a lovely, so he'd been doing this for my grandmother, he then carried on, did it for my mum. And then I had the privilege of bringing him warps as well. And we'd sit in the kitchen at the end of the Passover. He would have his notebook and I would have my notebook. So I'd give him the information on the warp and he'd give me back the comments that he had on the previous warp. And he didn't hold back. If there were some faults in the warp, he'd let me know. So on one day he actually brought out the image on the right is actually it's the first ever warp he wove for Mourne Textiles. So you can see, I don't know if you can make it out, but 1967, March 1967, he started weaving for us. So it's just a lovely full circles kept happening again. We always felt this connection with the past, even though we're continuing. Sadly, John passed away a few years ago, and his loom came to live at the workshop after that. We feel very honored to have it. It's just sitting right next to me. When we dismantled the loom from his shed, though, I was very, very specific to the guys that were helping me, that nothing could be removed from the loom. It had to be all of the little bits of string, all the little tools that were hanging on the loom had to be with the loom where they were, because I knew that's how John had it, and that's the ultimate place they should be. So when I weave on it, I put my hand down and there's the tool. It's as it should be. So even though John isn't here, I'm still learning so much from his loom, which is a lovely thing. That's it on the left. It's an old it's actually an old Donegal loom. It has it's got a mechanism on the, I don't know if you can make it out on the left. It's like a wind on mechanism. So it's actually quite a fast production loom. So we use that for weaving our tweeds and our blankets, which helps when anything you can do to speed up the weaving process. So we, as well as blankets and furnishing fabrics, we've hand weave rugs. So we have different looms. There's different times of the year that different products sell. So we make a wide variety of products. The rugs, again, they're very special to the workshop. They were part of the workshop when we first started. They were a catalyst to us starting, actually. So this is Denise, actually. This is also taken a little while ago. Some of these images are quite old. So she's hand twisting the fleece. So they were designed that the fleece would be hand twisted into the warp, into a linen warp, just a raw fleece. This has actually been carded a little bit, which makes it a little bit easier, a bit more even. And then in between the hand twisted fleece, we'd have it's just a carpet yarn, which would be looped over chopsticks. I think my grandmother had just come back from Asia, so there must be some chopsticks lying around. So they somehow got incorporated in the design, which I always quite like. This another loom that we brought into the workshop. It wasn't actually here when I came back, but we managed to find it again. It was my mum's when I was a child, and she gave it away, but managed to find who she gave it to, and they said I could have it back. It's a fantastic loom, very wide weaving, which allowed us to weave quite large rugs. There's my mum on the floor mending the back of a rug after it's been woven. And similar rugs. This was a project we did for property at Rex Lottery in LA. This actually, the rug was so big that the order was for such a large rug that we had to stitch 3 together, which is how they were done before. It was a bit of a learning curve to stitch these together, and also to package them. They had to be rolled in with the long side. So it's actually quite a long box that we had to ship all the way to America. So logistically quite a difficult one, but a beautiful rug, and the property. I don't know if you've seen the Rex Lottery building. It's a stunning property, perfect for this design. So we're very happy about that. Materials. It's all about it's all about the skills and materials. So as we were developing our rugs, we also started developing our fleece rugs, natural fleece rugs. Now these used sort of historically, my mom and my grandmother would just, you know, as they're driving around the Mournes, if they saw a sheep that was a nice color, then they'd track that farmer down, go and ask the farmer if they can have that fleece, and when the fleece was cut, they'd have the fleece. So it really is, it's that hands-on. They were sort of known for this, and you know, my mom always talks about, you know, she'd be driving around for ages trying to find the right farmer. But so when we started again, same thing, we had to find the right farmer, as local as we could. You know, we've sadly the sheep have you don't get so many colored sheep, you don't get so many textured, you know, different colors around us. But there was one sheep farmer that my mum knew on the other side of the Mournes from us, not far, about 20 minutes drive, Frida McGill, and she has some wonderful sheep. She bred rare breed sheep, or she breeds rare breed sheep, and she has a shed that is literally full of the most beautiful fleece that you can find. It's all different types, all different colors, textures. So you know, we'd be able to visit and just have the luxury of literally dipping into bags and pulling out the right color, the right texture, and you know, you buy it by the kilo. So it's just a fantastic way to find the right fiber for what we were doing. We could hand spin with this, so it's also a way that you could hand spin different colors of yarn and different textures. Really a fantastic thing. The drawback was that we also then had to clean the fleece, and they don't come pre-washed regularly, so so that was always quite a smelly. I mean, to be honest, the car would smell of sheep by the time we got home, and then and my bath would normally need a bit of a wash afterwards. But here we have some fleece drying before we'd weave on it, weave with it. These are a couple of wool hangings that my mum and I wove during lockdown. Actually, it was lovely. We could weave these together on the same loom, just side by side. So it was so very sociable weaving. She had a lot of comments on what I was doing, but you know, I had to learn. And yes, so we wove these because we weaved them next to each other. We could weave the same length, pretty much the same length wool hanging, which is lovely. They were to be displayed as a pair. So they're part of the Wren Hotel in Dublin. So they're on I think they're down in the restaurant down there. And we smaller wool hangings, same sort of techniques. Yeah, so I'm always, you know, I started with the looms. That's sort of, I think my mum jokes that I learned how to walk underneath one of her looms when we lived in Dublin. So I was always looking for the more looms. It's always about looms and what we can make with the looms. So I found these. I'd heard about these Hattersley looms that are amazing machines. They in Scotland they pedal power them. In Ireland they chuck the pedals away and put a little motor on the side. But they weave with shuttles, the beautiful selvage which you get on a hand woven fabric. But it allows you to weave. Ideally, it allows you to weave length of fabric, so like scarves, and narrow width blankets, so children's blankets. So we bought these specifically for those purposes. And I was fortunate to get a scholarship from Quest, Queen Elizabeth Scholarship Trust in London. And the scholarship was to get the machines properly up and running, because I still had a lot to learn, and also to get someone to come and help teach me how to use these machines. So I was very fortunate to meet this man, John Joe Murphy. The person I originally who was going to come couldn't make it, and then I was given John Joe's name. I didn't know him before, and when we got talking, I found out that he actually was an apprentice of my grandmother's when he was 18 and 19. So it was incredible. It was like it was meant to be. He's you know, he's a good friend of the family now. He came up, he stayed with us, and you know, he's an incredible weaver and has been weaving on these looms for many years. So yeah, it was this lovely full circle. He was an apprentice of my grandmom, and then he was able to pass on some of his knowledge. So again, I mean, he's got my stepfather now is obsessed with Hattersley weaving as well. So we've got he's created another weaver in the family, and we have these looms now are running. They're singing, and they're what we would weave our narrow width scarves and our children's blankets. They basically they mean you can weave the length without having to have extortionate prices, but you can still have this beautiful selvage on the side because they're weaving using shuttles. I mean, this is the thing. It's sort of, it's a loom for a product. That's the way I look at all of the things that we do. So if you can't weave it so that it's viable as a product, then it doesn't get woven. So we've got to find ways of doing that. So these looms are perfect for that. They would weave beautiful small blankets and then scarves, and allow us to bring some of the designs from the archives and put them into other, use other fibers. So these are actually using some of the Donegal yarns, Galanta range of yarn that they do, which has got lovely cashmere silk. Yeah, they're just, beautiful yarns. So here we go. I'm not sure how long I've been talking, but I'm going to keep it quick, I think. So
you have plenty of time. You're good.
Do I?
Yeah.
I forgot to start my stopwatch. So
Okay.
so I've sort of spoken about the workshop and what we do in the Mournes, and then, but really important. I mean, one of the things my grandmother did was, she was very, very good at, even though she was based here, she would go off and she'd travel to London, she'd travel abroad, and she would sell her product. She would sell what she did, her designs, and find clients further afield. We've sold all over the world, which is fantastic, and we still do, which is great. So we've continued that, and we've continued collaborating with different designers, different shops, different people from around. So this is an exhibition that we had at Margaret Howell, who's been a huge valuable supporter of ours since I got involved. I mean, she really understands what we do, and yeah, just as she stocked a lot of our blankets and cushions in her store alongside her stunning clothes. But here, it's also, this exhibition was an opportunity to bring a loom. So we've figured out that we can actually pack down the looms quite easily and put them in a van and drive them around, and bring the loom to the public. So we can bring loom to show people what we do in the Mournes, so that people can really understand the skills, the techniques, and the see the yarns before they're actually woven into a piece of cloth, so they can appreciate all of the elements that goes into making what we make. And they can ask us questions. They can, I mean, it's always fascinating. And anybody who sees a hand loom, when they first see it, they're fascinated by the way it works, the way the pedals lift the shafts, lower the shafts, putting the weft in through the warp. Another collaboration of ours, this time with Carl Hansen. This was during London Craft Week. I think this might be actually 2016, 2017. Again, brought a loom to their showroom in London, and it was and upholstered a number of the pieces of their furniture with our fabric. So this is Matthew, one of our apprentice. Well, he was a weaver actually. He was wove for us for a number of years. He's weaving a robin red Mourne checks. Yeah, it was it's just an opportunity to show people what went into the fabric, the linen in the weft, why we put it in, how it affected the fabric, the looms, the shuttles, all the techniques, and they could literally stand next to the weaver and ask as many questions they want. So it was a great opportunity, and some stunning furniture there. I mean, they had some beautiful chairs. So more collaborations. This time we went international. We went to Paris, took a loom on the ferry over to Paris Design Week, and to the Margaret Howell store there. It's showing people what we make in Ireland. I mean, it's a small island, but it's a lot of skills on the island, a lot of talent. So it was lovely to be able to show that off and let people see it, and bring my mum along too. She my mum's I don't know, it's a long-suffering mum. She's she quite enjoys it, I think. So she came, and this, I think we were weaving wool hangings here. So there was a bag full of fleece, and she could show people. I mean, they were. I think she designed actually the wool hangings in the 70s. So it was really good that she could then show that off to people, show them how the looms work. This was this is a very recent collaboration, actually. It was a very special one from last year with 2021. And this was a lovely full circle for us. So Simon at 2021, it was their 20-year anniversary. They wanted to relaunch Robin Day reclining chair with a anniversary fabric, so an anniversary edition fabric, and asked if we had anything that we could offer that was bold and in texture, color. And I had found a sample when I was looking through all the archives, just a really small little swatch. The only swatch there was no fabric anywhere, just a small swatch, and on it was written, designed, offered to Hilly, but didn't get put in production because the yarn prices had gone up so far that it was no longer commercially viable. So there's this design that had got all the way through the design process, but hadn't actually got manufactured. So I thought, okay, this is fantastic. This is an opportunity to really continue on from where my grandmother had left off. So I also had a sampler, actually, that was that had been like a wall hanging in my house for years. So in these colors. So I brought the sampler, the wall hanging, and we decided to, yes, this was the type of fabric. So we then you can just see all the notes. That's how we we sort of, as well as having the samples, we'd have these sort of handwritten notes, and we've got books of them at the workshop, and it's really a deciphering detective process to try and figure out how everything was made, like what, the picks per inch, the reeds. So we made our sample on one of her hand looms. This is the Chinese loom, as we call it, the Chinese loom. She designed it from looms that she used when she was living in Asia. We still use it a lot. I'm actually sitting in it right now. It's sort of a slightly narrow width, so it's not so good for production, but perfect for sampling. It's a beautiful loom to weave on. So here we are, just sampling the yarns, different colorways. We actually went for the colorway, the lightest orange on the right. That was the one we selected, and a yellow. We ended up doing a yellow as well. And this then the next part of this fabrics journey. So we wove a hand woven sample and upholstered a chair with it. But we then, to put it in production, another way I'd continued the workshop was before the workshop shut in the 80s, my grandmother had been looking at purchasing a machine loom, a more mechanized loom, rather than going and having her fabrics commissioned. So not everything was hand woven. Obviously, we hand wove some things, but not everything. But sadly, she didn't get that opportunity. So I had always wanted to continue that and continue the evolution of the workshop. So we had started getting some of the fabrics commission woven when the width was, when we needed a wider width, or when the volume was too much for the hand weavers to deal with. And in 2019, we purchased two of the looms which had been weaving our fabrics, and set off a small micro mill, just for really to help produce our stuff, to keep the designs alive and keep production going. So it's fantastic from going from the hand loom in the workshop, and then bringing that through into production on the Dornier looms in the mill, in the new mill in Mourne Weavers, and that sort of connection between the two. So we still obviously hand weave. That's what we do. That's what we'll always do. We still, mostly now it's sampling and rugs, and then the odd tweeds, various tweeds we can do, like Shaggy Dog has to be hand woven, certain things. But we would, we're looking for ways of making things, and in small volume as well. Having this mill, this small micro mill, as I call it, it does mean that we can make smaller production runs. We can have more variety. It gives us this flexibility that we wouldn't have if we were having to get stuff commissioned. It also keeps it local. It keeps the skills local. I mean, a lot of the skills between the two mills are transferable. So we'd have, like, we've got a sewing department, but it sews for both mills. So it's hand woven product as well as machine woven. It. So it's just another loom. It's another extension of what we have been doing. And then, I mean, the fabric we can also keep a very close eye and make sure the fabric is as we want it to be. We have that full creative control on it, which is what we want and what we need. And yeah, we can keep delving into those archives. And here I'm at the end. So the most important part of this whole journey for me, the most valuable bit, is that I get to work with my mum again. So it's a family business, and yeah, so you can see me bottom right. That's how I started, literally while she was weaving. And I think we were living in Dublin at the time. Yeah, I sort of, very patient by the looks of it, sat next to her. She would weave. She said, I basically, if I wanted her to stop, I'd sit on the pedals so she could no longer weave. So I sort of grew up with weaving. It's sort of something that she grew up with. It's sort of, and the more weavers, the more that I meet, that I realize once you're a weaver, it's hard to ditch it. You carry on weaving and that passion.
Oh, beautiful.
And so here, yeah, so this is it. So then the next generation. So it's to pass on that history, that background to who we are. That's my children with my mum. Well, this is a while ago now, and that loom, whoops, funnily enough, that loom on the right is the one that I learned how to weave on, and my mum learned how to weave on. So it's yeah, it's just, there we go. That's it. So continuity. That's to me, it's the passing on of the skills and the techniques and keeping them alive. Sorry, so that might have gone on. I don't know. Or it has. There we go. Oh,
Absolutely stunning, absolutely stunning and amazing. Thank you, Mario. That was, well, tear jerking in some areas.
Thank you.
It was like,
did run on a wee bit.
A little bit of a tear jerker. And my goodness, so inspiring. One of the things that you said, which really struck me, some of the images conjured up my time at art college when I went to the National College of Art and Design in Dublin to do my fashion degree, and I did some textiles, a week or two in textiles, and I always remember the looms. The looms were huge, and they were quite overwhelming sometimes, but they were like, it was like almost being in the carcass of a dinosaur, where you were just like really surrounded by these big giant wooden specimens that you somehow had to control and create something from. And I always thought it was unbelievable experience being able to do that at college. But one of the things that I heard you say during your presentation was that when you transferred the loom from I can't remember the gentleman's name who passed on, who had it in his garage.
Yeah, from John Mcintoshney.
Yeah, and then you transferred it, and you said that you're still learning from the loom.
Yeah,
like, what an amazing phrase. It's so beautiful.
Oh no, we'll always, you're always learning. I mean, my mum's still learning even after 50 years of weaving.
So thank you so much.
What I liked very much, if I may, Antonia,
of course,
is this phrase, building a micro mill to be able to continue the textile. Any other person would have said, we're building a micro mill to be able to do more production, to make more money, to have a better economy. And in the entire presentation, you have not addressed that part of your work. And that is so enlightening, because that, the World Hope Forum is supposedly the opposite of the World Economic Forum. So thank you very much that
thank you. I appreciate
that it's about the textiles and not about the gain. And that is, I think, such an important message, that we sing from the textile. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks.